gone through in, I guess, the last, almost year, right?
Oh, okay. So, I got engaged to a Norwegian national. Um, and we got married in May. And then I actually went to Norway with him. I was going to actually use up my entire visitor visa there and spend 3 months with him since we'd just gotten married. We knew that we were going to end up, well, originally we wanted to come to the US, but the longer I was in Norway, we started to weigh our options, thinking maybe I want to stay in Norway. I was fortunate enough to be able to get a visa to stay there, a temporary residence visa that allowed me to stay in the country while they were processing it. So I was able to stay in Norway for 6 months. Then I got the job with the Syrian American Medical Society. And of course, they wanted me to come back to the US after 2 months and take up residence in DC, which I did. And I left my husband in Norway. We went ahead and applied for US immigration in October, very aware of how long this was probably going to take. In fact, when we finally, a month later, finally heard back from the Department of Homeland Security, they said it would be that they were averaging 7.5 months, that they hoped for 5 months. So that put us in the best terms looking at April before he became able to come in the country. For people who aren't aware of how U.S. immigration works, once you put in for immigration, you cannot come visit. He cannot come to the U.S. He cannot see me. He cannot set foot here without special paperwork. And there's lots of stipulations, which I can touch on later. But it is very, 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 very difficult for him to get into the U.S. And one of the many problems is that if you do paperwork to try, like there's some options for being able to visit the country that extends your overall immigration paperwork time. So if you got a visitor, a K-3 form that allowed him to come visit for a couple of weeks, then that would add 3 to 6 months to our overall immigration time. So we'd go from 7 months to over a year waiting for him to be able to come into the country. Things you should know if you are unaware of my situation or haven't heard me ever talk about my husband. He speaks perfect English. If anybody read his text, like his written English, not as great as his spoken English, but still definitely readable and understandable.
He was able to pass off as an American once.
Yes. So he speaks English. He's college educated. He plans to come over here and start a company with my father and employ at least 5 people. So this is somebody who you would think we would want to get into the country, and he's not from a threatening country. He's Aryan. I mean, if we're going to get into those kinds of things, you would think that he would be positive thing. However, okay, so whatever, we're going through the immigration process. This is the way things are. I come back from Norway. I go visit my parents in Texas for Thanksgiving, and then I move up to Maryland to start my job in DC. I am literally in Maryland 5 days where I become very, 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 very ill. I get sent to the ER and immediately put into ICU, which of course sends me into a panic. As you can well imagine, I'm in Maryland by myself. My family's all in Texas. My husband is an ocean away from me. So I call, as soon as I can, I call him and I'm like, you got to get out here. I'm being admitted to ICU. This is really bad. He immediately reaches out to every embassy and he talks to everybody he can. And there is absolutely no emergency options for people going through the immigration process to get a visa to come over here. So while I am deathly ill in ICU, he cannot come to the U.S. whatsoever. And we find out that it doesn't matter what level I'm at. I could be, on death's door for real. Fortunately enough, I only spent a week in ICU and now I'm out and I'm doing fine and everything's fantastic. And that's very lucky for us. But we realized that there are probably thousands and thousands of people who went through this exact same situation. It's even so bad that if I were to die, he cannot come back to the U.S. and attend my funeral. It is an absolutely horrific situation. Being in ICU is one of the most horrible things you can ever experience in your life. It is frightening. I had nobody there. I was totally alone. My significant other, the person who speaks for me, the person who makes financial decisions with me, The person who, if anything were to happen, I would leave everything to, is not there. I can't put him on. He's 7 hours ahead of me in time zones, so I can't even put him on a speakerphone to let him listen into when the doctors come in and talk to me, because God knows when they come in and what time zone, whether he's at work, or anything. You can't communicate enough what's going on medically, and these are very, very serious things that are going on. And not to mention just the fact that it's an incredibly stressful environment, and I'm without somebody to hold my hand. Fortunately for me, my parents, they couldn't even find a flight. They got in the car and drove to Maryland and stayed with me the last 4 days that I was in the hospital. It took them 2 days to get up here. And I was very lucky. But so I started posting about this because I was just floored that there was no option and that nobody could help us. Like, we talked to at least 15 different congressmen. We talked to the U.S. Embassy in Stockholm, the U.S. Embassy in Oslo. We talked to the Norwegian Embassy in D.C. And everybody was like, well, we're really sorry this is happening. Turns out there's also been a compassionate visitor visa that has gone into Congress a number of times, and it has never made it out of committee. It just continues to die in committee, and it doesn't go anywhere. We started to post about this. Alan Bordius actually started the hashtag. I was way too sick. I had been posting about our situation, and he created this hashtag Visa for Kai, and talked about our situation, and storyfied it, which was fantastic. Pulled some stuff that I had said. And then posted also linking to his congressman trying to get people involved. We had Katie Pavlich talk about it. Matt Lewis retweeted a bunch of it. Chris Loich. I know I'm missing some people. It's been picked up by a number of people. I think we might go on a morning show about it. The big thing for me is now, even though it's not pertinent for him to come over here on some kind of emergency visa anymore, the fact that this is happening and has continued to happen for possibly decades. And a lot of people, I'm very fortunate that I have friends in politics, friends in high places, that I was able to get some notice on this issue. But think about all the people who are immigrating with no experience, no political contacts, and they have nothing to turn to. And for me, I have a long-term on and off illness. And 7 years ago, I was hospitalized, and it was over 3.5 months that I was in intensive care. And if that had happened again, he wouldn't have been able to come, even in 3.5 months, if we'd been able to fill out the paperwork to come see me during that time. Thank God this time it was only a week. But so that's more than a digest version, Taylor. I'm sorry.
And this is legal. This is legal immigration.
This is exactly. We played by the rules. We did all the right things. We paid out a lot of money. And we've done all of the right things, and yet we're being punished. If he was he was here illegally. If he was going against his outstayed his visa, or had just come over totally illegally, then of course he could come into the hospital and see me. They don't stop you especially if it's your husband. No one's going to stop him from coming into my hospital room. But the fact that we are playing by the rules, working within the system, then we're being completely screwed over.
Chuck?
Well, that seems to be this. Well, first of all, I'm glad you got out of ICU. A week in ICU.
Thank you.
That is
not fun.
Oh, that is not a picnic. That is serious. And you do a week and hope you don't have to do a second week. Because the longer you're in there, you know better than I, the worse. But yeah, this is just, we're all going through this. Everybody who follows the rules is getting screwed now. If you were a responsible citizen, working a job, paying your taxes, paying for your own insurance, well, guess what? You didn't win the lottery, And, but yeah, this is what comes when you've got an unfeeling, unelected administrative government that's too big to know what's going on half the time. And they just don't care about situations like this.
Go ahead, Taylor.
I was going to say, one of the things I can't figure out is, you go to the whitehouse.gov, and there are some nice comments about legal immigration in the president's immigration reform comments. But it really sure seems like that everybody's focused on illegal immigration.
This is something that Taylor, you and I have discussed before. I think that a lot of our problems with illegal immigration would be solved by fixing legal immigration. I think the vast majority of people out there that are illegal immigrants would rather not be illegal immigrants. It's not exactly fun. You could get picked up at any time. Well, depending on the state. In Texas, probably. In Texas. In Texas or Arizona, you could be picked up at any time. But some people, they do it because it is an expensive process. It is long, it is arduous. They kick you out of the country while you're going through it, unless you get a special pass to stay in the country. But you have already had to have been allowed in the country previously. Like the fact that Kai wasn't going to school here or didn't have a work visa already meant that while he was applying for a marriage, he could have stayed if he had one of those 2 visas, but he didn't, obviously, because he has a real job in Norway where he lives.
But too bad he's not a Norwegian hockey player.
I know. And so it's difficult. This is a process. It is grueling. It totally blows. We've been married, a little over half a year, and now we're going to spend half of our first year of marriage apart. Fortunately for me, the Norwegian government has been much more gracious than the American government, and I'm now able to go back and visit for Christmas because I have they finally approved my temporary residency there and that kind of thing. I'm not moving there, but it's I have a visa that allows me to get into the country without any stipulations. So lucky us. But it's hard. And so I think that if you simplify the process, if you cut the costs are ridiculous. They make it look smaller, but they don't tell you for, the cost of the medical checkup, which is for us from Norway is huge. It's $5,000. And the cost of every single paper they ask you to get, you have to get certified, stamped, specially done. Every single piece of paper you turn in costs you money. And time. And it took us 2 months just to get the paperwork all together. The financial situation, the things that you have to do. It is not simple. Or you can hire an immigration lawyer. And yeah, that's plausible for most people who are coming in at a poverty level. Kai and I are fortunate to be middle class, but if you're lower middle class or at even less than that, if you're truly poor, I don't know how I have no idea how you would get in. And so we have this arduous process, and then we wonder why people skip it and how people get punished when they do try to go through the legal process and how much it hurts and people having to. I read a story just today that was on Politics. That's the name of the website. Politics. About a Latvian girl who was over here she wanted to become a U.S. citizen, and she got deported back. She hadn't done anything wrong. Her visa was up, and she tried everything she could to stay in the country and couldn't stay. And she left her entire life, her boyfriend of 3 years, the job she had, her schooling, everything, and they sent her back because she couldn't get through the legal process. These are people, Kai, that girl, and plenty of other people want to be real American citizens and do things here for our country and live the American dream. And we are completely preventing that from happening. And we're spending all of our time worried about we got to fix the illegal situation. But what we're doing is this blanket thing that will just, okay, now everybody can come into the system. And the system is messed up. It's the exact same. I'll use the same comparison that I used, Taylor, earlier when we talked on Thursday, which is you can compare it to what's going on with healthcare right now. What they did is we had a system that was already broken. Medicaid, Medicare, all of that stuff has lots and lots of significant problems. And instead, we just said, okay, we're not going to fix any of those things. We're just going to let everybody into this system that is totally whack. That's exactly what we're doing with immigration.
There has to be a solution here, right, Chuck?
Well, unless the Republicans and Democrats get interested in the Scandinavian voting bloc, that's what it is. It's politics. They talk about illegal immigration because, let's face it, they're not reaching out to, Indians and Chinese. They're reaching out to, Hispanics, and which I think is